imagine this. Imagine you are a restaurant owner, okay? You own a seafood restaurant in Pittsburgh, right? And you work really hard at your restaurant. You know, you're trying to make it the best you can, right? And somebody asks you, how are you doing? Right? Well, you can answer that question related to your finances and, you know, staff problems and all that kind of thing, right? Food waste. But when they ask you, no, how are you doing compared to other seafood restaurants? How are you doing? Well, how are you doing compared to just other restaurants in Pittsburgh, right? You'd have no idea because you're busy at your restaurant all the time, right? So that was the goal of our project, is to answer that question, how are you doing? And the purpose was to give the business owner, or in this case, the restaurant owner, more actionable insight into how they're doing. And we did that through KPI analysis of themselves, but also of their peers, right? Key performance indicators, analyzing key performance indicators, right? And so, well, where do we go to find this kind of publicly available data on how your seafood restaurant in Pittsburgh is doing, right? Well, Xinyu actually had a great idea on a project she had been working on before with her in one of her college classes. Take Yelp data. Now, anybody who uses Yelp, they typically say, I'm in Pittsburgh, I want to go to a seafood restaurant. What's a good seafood restaurant, right? You go to Yelp and it tells you, right? But from a business owner's point of view, they can take that same data and see what are people commenting about my restaurant. Now, as you know, Yelp reviews, it's all free-form text. Oh my God, how do you analyze free-form text? That like so sucks. Can't I just have checkboxes that make it so much easier, right? And so what we did is we connected to the Yelp API, right? And we're going to build this big app, you know, it's going to be marvelous. And we downloaded the data, and it's 5.4 gigabytes of data. And so we pretty immediately said, okay, maybe we need to scale back our expectations on this project, right? So we decided, okay, it's going to be restaurants, and we're going to look for restaurants in 3 primary cities, Las Vegas, Pittsburgh, and Phoenix. And we're going to have 5 categories of restaurants: American traditional, seafood, Mexican, Italian, like that, right? And so we filtered that data. And now you've got all this Yelp review data, but like I said, it's all free-form text. So what I did, my contribution, she did this stuff, my contribution was I took all that free-form review text and I ran it through Microsoft Cognitive Services Text Analysis API. And what this service does is it pulls out key phrases from whatever text you put in. Now there's a good point, bad point to that. They only take 100 entries at a time, but fortunately each entry can be 1,000 rows, right? And so it could be theoretically 100,000 reviews. You can run through it at any one time. We had quite a few reviews to run through this thing. And we came out with 3.9 million key phrases. Now, if you were to take a look at the count of those key phrases, it would have a very long tail, right? Some key phrases like waiter, food, place, you know, obviously those are mentioned a lot. And then you've got some phrases that, you know, only one person ever referenced that. So we came out with 3.9 million phrases. We said, okay, we're only going to look at those phrases that have been mentioned at least 1,000 times. So we're shrinking that pool. And of those phrases, we then normalize the phrases. So if it's server, waiter, waitress, we all normalize that to mean a topic of service or location, something like this. So we came out with, I think, 17 topics. So we had all these unique key phrases, threw out the long tail, kept the main ones, normalized those to 17 topics, and then we had something that we could start using. Now, somebody once asked me, what about sentiment analysis? Well, it's actually built in, isn't it? If you think about it, each review has a star rating, right? And obviously a 1 star is a negative sentiment, 5 stars is positive. And what we came up with was a way to see what were the topics most commonly mentioned in your 1-star reviews. Those are the things that you as a business owner need to focus upon to get your overall review star rating elevated. The 5-star things, keep doing it. You're doing a great job, but it's already 5 stars. Where are you going to go from there? It's the 1-star things. And the final key feature, which Xinyu will demonstrate, is we developed a dynamic text suggestion to management. Based upon all of this data, we developed a message box that you'll see that gives customized feedback to the owner of what it is they need to do to improve the performance of their restaurant compared to other seafood restaurants, compared to other restaurants in Pittsburgh, for whatever time frame you want to look at. So Xinyu developed all of this. I was just the guy with the data. She did all of this, and she'll walk through the individual features.
Great. Thank you, Ron. So I can't actually do this without his data, so we both did this. So we have 3 pages of a dashboard. This is the first page we're showing here. This is mainly focusing on the environment overview. So this is intended to give you a big picture of what's going on in the area that you care about. So let's suppose you're a restaurant owner, a seafood restaurant owner in Pittsburgh. So Ron, can you, select Pittsburgh, and then business category would be seafood. So once we selected this, we can kind of see what's the big picture in this area, so you can understand what your peers are doing. So this chart here is percentage of reviews by stars. So based on this distribution from 5 stars to 1 star, you can actually see the seafood restaurants in Pittsburgh is pretty good in general. And then actually on top of here are all other features that you can apply if you're interested. For example, a specific business or stars from 1 to 5, and topics, any topics that you're interested in, and then based on different year, quarter, and month, you can see what's the big picture in here. And also down here we have average stars by topics, number of business by topics, and number of reviews by topics. So you can actually see, based on different topics, what are the average stars, the number of business, and number of reviews. So just a general big picture. This this is the second page of the dashboard, and this is actually intended to give you some more insights about what your business is doing and how that compares with your peers. So let's still keep that example. So Pittsburgh seafood restaurant, and we'll take Original Oyster House as an example here. So when you selected these two city and business category and select your business, you can get a summary of how your business is doing compares with your peers in the same area and the same business category. So we can see actually here, so our restaurants have an average of 2.4 stars compares to 3.6 in the same area. So obviously, we're not doing so well comparing to our peers. So you might wonder where we're not doing so well. Now you can take a look at these charts down at the bottom. These two charts are frequency of topics in the reviews that people mentioned and the frequency of key phrases, which is just draw from the raw text that people wrote about the business. So based on the frequency, you can see people mention a lot of food and location, staff and employee, and then these are the words that they actually use to describe these topics. So, and now at this moment, if we select, since we're not doing so well comparing to our peers, if we select 1 stars, and it actually filters this dashboard and then filters all the topics and key phrases, and also percentage of reviews based on this 1 star. So you can actually see where we're not doing well is mostly because if we look at topics, our food is something wrong with our food, or staff or employee, maybe they're just hating their work, they're not doing well, they're treating their customers bad. So something like that. This is something you can get from the reviews. And if you just look at the key phrases, the raw text that people wrote, place, staff, waitress, so maybe mainly the waitress, not the waiters, were not doing so well. This is an example of why we're not doing so good. And actually in here, we also generated these texts to suggest to the management team why we're not doing so well. And that's basically what I just talked about. So another example we can look at here is another business. So let's use Bakersfield Penn Ave. So this is actually a restaurant that is doing better than average in the area. And we can actually see where they're doing better. And then if we filter on this 5 stars as an example, and we look at frequency of topics and key phrases that were mentioned in the reviews, well, they're doing good with their food. And then wait time is shorter, maybe that's why they're having a lot of good reviews. And then location, maybe they're convenient. So if you look at the raw text, actually it seems they serve tacos, and tacos are really good here. So if you're looking for tacos, and maybe this is a good place. Also place and chips, they have good chips. Something like this. So one other thing I want to mention about this chart, percentage of reviews by stars, is actually you can see how you're doing compares with your peers in the same area and same business category. So this is where we want to start. And then from here, we drill on these different stars and see what are the topics and keywords that were used to describe why we're good or not. Mm-hmm.
So I just have a question. If you're in the seafood category, where are all the Mexican food items coming up as the topics?
That's interesting. Good question. So I don't know, because these are the data just we got from the reviews, raw text.
One thing I noticed, when I was going through the data, we always want things nice and clean, right? Well, it's not really that way in the real world. You could have a Mexican restaurant that also is categorized as seafood. so you can have multiple categories, if you will.
And then she jumps the graph, trim talk, I'm sure. I don't eat seafood, so I just think of Mexican food and seafood separately.
Yeah.
Or maybe it can be that someone is actually talking about, well, I'd better go to that Mexican restaurant than this one. So that's why sometimes these kind of words may show up. Please.
So I apologize, I showed up a little bit late here trying to find a parking space. So if you've already covered this, let me know and we can talk offline. But one of the things that strikes me here is, first of all, I'm making an assumption, so I want you to validate it, and then I'll have my question. So it appears that the majority of this data set is based on, what do they refer to it as, social media data. Is that correct?
This data is open data from the Yelp website.
Okay, so the answer is yes, okay. So with that being the case, and I apologize, I don't know your name, but as you
Ron?
Ron, okay, so Ron, as you mentioned, data's never as clean as we like it to be. So in my opinion, social media is an excellent example of extremely dirty data for a lot of reasons. Spelling mistakes are simple, low-hanging fruit, but then you've got issues like people going in and putting in false records, maybe employees trying to boost the ratings. I mean, all kinds of things can happen. These are just a few minor examples. How do you deal with that type of problem when you're dealing with social media as your data source?
Yeah, can I answer that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. You know, my background, I was a CFO for a company. Well, I was a founder of a company, and I was a CFO for a company, and now I work in business intelligence, right? And the counsel that I give to people who are looking at dashboards or whatever, numbers give the illusion of accuracy. Right?
Exactly right.
Right? And so when I present something like this, there's a lot of numbers. Oh, it must be right. All I'm going for is reasonable. I want the numbers to reasonably reflect the situation, right? And with the social media, like you mentioned, we did, like misspellings and things like that. We got rid of that because we only took a look at those phrases that have been mentioned at least 1,000 times. So 1,000 people had to misspell the same word, right? So that got rid of a lot of the noise. The other point is, in this application, we don't want to have like live, real-time data. What we're going for here is directionally correct. Directionally, your food isn't as high quality as your competitors. Your service is lower rated compared to others. Is it 4.2, or is it 4.25, or is it 4.19? I don't really care. It's directionally correct and it's reasonable.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We predefined 3 KPIs, key performance indicators. Start from here. We have number of users who reviewed, average stars, and we'll need to clip those. Clips the.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. And then number of reviews. So if we look at this based on the time series, our data actually starts from the beginning of 2015 and ends in July of 2017. So if we look at our data over this period, this is a sequential trend and this is year over year. So you can kind of see how you're doing in this 2.5-year time and how you're doing in the same period compared to the same period last year or the year before last. So we still take this Pittsburgh seafood restaurant and Original Oyster House as an example. Remember, this business was not doing so well compared to the peers. We don't want, no worries, we don't want one data point on this. you can uncheck year and quarter. So we want to see the big picture on this page.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
All right. So let's say we look at the number of reviews for Original Oyster House, and we notice that there's a peak in here in March of 2017, and actually we got something similar. This is in April for average stars. We got a peak in here, and then number of users who reviewed, there's a peak also in March 2017. We might wonder, why are we suddenly get more reviews in that month and more stars compared to other months? So when you have this question, you might want to go back to page 2. So now in here, we select Original Oyster House in here as business. We keep these two selectors, Pittsburgh and seafood. And we go here and select year 2017 and month March. So 3. Great. So once we got this, we can actually see what are the topics, what are the stars that people gave during this month. And just focus on this month, we can see we have a lot more 1-star ratings for this business. And if we select that, yeah, so people are mentioning about food, time, location. These are the things that they mentioned the most. And then the raw text were that they mentioned their place and time and something about their bite. So food is not tasting good. Waiting time may be long in this case. Then location may not be so convenient. Maybe they didn't find a good parking place. Mm-hmm.
First of all, I'd like to say really nice job on this, and very impressive from beginning to end, putting it through the machine learning, piping it in here, really nice and nicely laid out. My question is, just in terms of like stylistically, like looking at it, there's a lot of stuff up there, and so what's the kind of the approach in Power BI? Is it just put all the bells and whistles up there and let the customers figure it out, like which ones they want to click through, or stylistically would it be kind of like just pick a few key indicators and put them there? Like what's your thinking on that?
So if you are the business owner, and if I work for you and I design this dashboard for you, first of all, I need to collect requirement from you. What do you want to see? What would you define as a key performance indicator? And then based on what you really need, I design this kind of dashboard. For example, let's say if this is what you need, and then once I have this, I can walk you through how you can do with this. And you take this as a tool, like probably a problem-solving tool that you will use in the future to monitor the data. Once you have any questions about why we're not doing so well this month, you might want to go to this dashboard, to a certain page, and understand how the peers are doing. Maybe it's because of some other factors. Let's say the market is not so good, so your peers are not doing so good as well, so that may make you feel better in that case. Or if they are really doing well, but it's only your business that's not doing so well, you can use this to understand in which areas you're not doing so well. And then start from there. You can kind of maybe talk to some customers in your restaurant or talk to your staff to understand more about what exactly is going on. Yeah. Anything you want to add, Ron?
Oh, I'm just in total agreement with you that you can vomit numbers on people all day long, right? And they never get the nutrition that they're looking for, right? And that was the idea actually behind this point up here, was you've got all this data, you've got all these column charts, and you got all those cool things, but that's not really why I'm in business. I'm in business to serve customers to the best of my ability. And so this type of dynamic text, where it kind of summarizes for you, executive summary if you will, kind of tells you, or hopefully tells you, where to go and what to look more closely at, right? So I think we're about out of time. Maybe one more. Any other? Yeah. Last question.
Sure. Real quick for you, was there any information in the data set that allowed you to look at like the frequency with which people may have liked or disliked a particular review of some kind, and you could use that as like a focus piece to be placed within the dashboard in some way?
So if I'm understanding what you're saying, let me paraphrase it back. So there's a review,
Yes.
and how many times did someone like that?
Right.
So
agreement
in a
with-
sense, a review of the review.
Yes.
I don't know that that data was available. We didn't
I
pay
remember
attention
there
to
are
it.
some features on Yelp where you can say this review is cool or this
helpful.
review
Ah,
is bad or
that's
that.
true.
But we didn't focus on that part of the data.
Yeah.
I remember that data is in the big data set, but we didn't focus on that because what we were focusing on is mainly to get an idea of what they were talking about in the reviews.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
that's right. There was the cool review. That's right. Yeah, I forgot that. Yeah.
Yeah, the reason I threw that out there is it might help them try to figure out which ones are very common in terms of a thread where there's feedback for them
Right.
that other people are also experiencing and may not have written a review about.
Good point. That's a good point.
Great.
Okay.
So I heard from David that Pittsburgh is a big spring break destination.
Yes. Forget about Fort Lauderdale or Orlando. No, no. Pittsburgh. There you go.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Thank you.
All right, nice presentation.